What is it?
It's your new pet.
You're kidding. Dad, it's really neat. Can I pick him up, Dad?
Sure, go ahead. Just be careful. You gotta be gentle.
I will.
I hope he's housebroken.
Oh, isn't he cute? Has it got a name, Dad?
Mogwai. I just call him Gizmo. He seems to like it.
Well, hello and welcome back to Greg's Game Room. Now, on this video, I would like to talk about some of my favorite movies that have Atari products in them. Not necessarily like, you know, the video game screens themselves, but, you know, like the 2600, the 5200, the 7800, some of those actual systems or advertisements of the Atari in them. And one of those movies is Gremlins. So you excited about seeing some of these movies, Gizmo? Yeah, I knew he would be excited about it. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. It really helps me out. Just, you know, you don't have to do it now. Just, you know, before you click off the video. Before we get started on the actual list, let me just mention one that an Atari does not actually appear in, but where the company put in a lot of effort, and that is Superman 3 from 1983. There is none better than Christopher Reeve in the role of Superman. In this one, he battles a supercomputer and its built-in video game. Mr. Ross, played by Robert Vaughn, shoots rockets at the Man of Steel with a pair of joysticks. Now, this really isn't a video game, but a painstaking animation that took the folks over at Atari over 3 months to create. Starting off at number 10 is Max Dugan Returns from 1983. In this Neil Simon movie, Jason Robards plays Max Dugan, who is the long-lost father of Marsha Mason's character. As the grandfather of Matthew Broderick's character, he's trying to make up for the years he was away by buying them gifts with the money that he earned from a shady career in Las Vegas. In one of the final scenes, he has recorded a message of farewell, and you can see some of the gifts that he has purchased for Michael, including an Atari 800 computer and several Atari 2600 games still in the box. Number 9 is D.A.R.Y.L from 1985. This movie stars Barrett Oliver, better known from the Never-Ending Story. In this film, he plays D.A.R.Y.L, a top-secret experimental robot in the body of a young boy. He's broken out of the facility by one of the workers and becomes the foster child of Michael McKean's character. When he and his friend go to his sister's room, D.A.R.Y.L shows them his abilities by playing a super fast game of pole position on the Atari 800 XL computer. It's a pretty long scene involving the game and the computer. Number 8 is Revenge of the Nerds from 1984, a comedy classic starring Anthony Edwards and Robert Carradine. These nerds like to play video games, of course, and you can see a game of Space Master X7 being played in the gymnasium by Wormser. Later, the Atari 2600 can be seen as Wormser and Lamar are doing their jazzercise. And yet again, when it's announced that Lambda has granted them an interview. I wonder if UN Jefferson plays Atari. Number 7 is Poltergeist from 1982. In the original classic ghost story where little Carol Ann is kidnapped by spirits, the parents, played by Craig T. Nelson and JoBeth Williams, have obviously found time to play Atari in their bedroom because it can be prominently seen as their son Robbie enters the room. And it also appears a few moments later as Carol Ann utters the famous line, "They're here." Number 8 is Blade Runner from 1982. In this classic Ridley Scott movie, Harrison Ford plays Deckard, whose job it is to hunt down and kill replicants, who are manufactured people. While there are no proper Atari systems shown in the movie, you can see the Atari logo prominently displayed in the city scenes and later as he chases down a replicant. And as a cool homage to this famous inclusion, the Atari logo is also seen in the new Blade Runner 2049 movie. Number 5 is Airplane from 1980. Robert Hayes and Julie Haggerty star in this spoof of airplane disaster movies. Towards the end of the movie, there is a brief shot of a couple of air traffic controllers playing basketball for the Atari 2600 rather than directing traffic. Number 4 is E.T. the Extraterrestrial from 1982. Now you probably already know the story of E.T., the little alien who came to Earth and befriended Elliot. It's one of the most beloved movies ever, and there's an Atari sitting right there on top of their television as E.T. works out how he's going to phone home. It also appears in more scenes as Gertie, played by a young Drew Barrymore, learns her B's. Number 3 is Gremlins from 1984. Joe Dante directed this movie about small monsters who attack the sleepy town of Kingston Falls. In what is probably the most popular scene in this movie, the Gremlins have taken over Dory's Tavern, but they can't help but get in a little game of Star Wars by Atari. And I also spotted a Crystal Castles game right next to it. Number 2 is Terminator 2 Judgment Day from 1991. You know the story of this James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger classic. A robot played by Robert Patrick comes from the future to kill its enemy John Connor, played by Edward Furlong. Of course, John is a master at stealing money from banks thanks to his handy-dandy Atari portfolio computer. And later in the movie, he also enjoys playing a little end-of-the-world scenario by playing Atari's Missile Command arcade game. And then there's a later scene in the movie where John Connor and the crew have infiltrated Cyberdyne, and John needs to use his Atari portfolio to save the world. And lastly, we have what I consider to be the number 1 movie with Atari in it, and that is Cloak and Dagger from 1984. In this spy thriller, a young boy named Davy, played by Henry Thomas, and his imaginary spy friend Jack Flack, played by Dabney Coleman, try to keep secret government plans out of the hands of the bad guys. This is a fun movie, and it's made all the better because it has Atari all over it. In fact, the secret plans are stored inside of an Atari 5200 cartridge called Cloak and Dagger. There are scenes of them in their friend Morris's store, which is covered with Atari stuff. And Morris himself even has an Atari 800 computer in his back room. It's here he opens up the Atari cartridge to reveal how special it is. So then he plays the game and learns of the secret plans that are contained within. Now, the game Cloak and Dagger that's played in the movie is actually an unreleased arcade game called Agent X that was converted into Cloak and Dagger. The 5200 game was being developed, but it was never completed. However, there is an unfinished prototype of the game floating out there. Alright, well, those are my top 10 favorite movies that have Atari products in them. Of course, your list is probably different, and I'm sure that Gizmo's list is different as well. Gizmo, where'd you go?
I'm out of here.
What? Why, you little... Alright guys, I gotta go. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, and if you wouldn't mind clicking the like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff down below, that'd be most appreciated. Alright, now I got a Mogwai to catch. Get back here!
Bye, Greg.